You are born into a world that owes you nothing. You cannot stand, you cannot speak, you cannot find food. Your tiny body struggles to stay warm, and every sound you make could attract something that sees you as its next meal. At barely 3 kilograms, you are one of the most vulnerable creatures on Earth. And yet, against impossible odds, you survive. Not just you. Every one of your ancestors survived the exact same challenge. For nearly 300,000 years, generation after generation managed to protect babies who were astonishingly fragile. If just one parent, one grandparent, or one small community had failed somewhere along that chain, your story would have ended before it ever began. That raises a fascinating question. How did ancient humans keep children alive long before hospitals, vaccines, baby monitors, or even permanent homes? The answer reveals far more than parenting techniques. It exposes one of humanity's greatest evolutionary advantages, the ability to survive together. Most animals enter the world ready for action. A newborn giraffe is standing within an hour. A foal quickly follows its mother across open ground. Even chimpanzee infants can cling tightly to their mothers almost immediately after birth. Human babies are completely different. For months, they cannot do anything without help. Every heartbeat, every meal, every degree of warmth depends on another person. At first glance, it almost seems like terrible design, but there is a reason. The human brain is enormous compared with the rest of the body. If babies stayed inside the womb until their brains were more fully developed, their heads would simply be too large to pass through the mother's pelvis. Evolution solved this problem with an unusual compromise. Humans are born much earlier in their development than most other primates. Scientists refer to this as secondary altriciality. In simple terms, human babies arrive before they are truly finished growing. At birth, the human brain is only about 1/4 of its adult size. A young chimpanzee begins life with a much larger proportion of its future brain already developed. This means something remarkable. Much of human brain growth happens outside the womb, where the infant depends entirely on other people. Survival is no longer just about one mother. It becomes a challenge for an entire community. That simple fact changed the course of human evolution. People often repeat the phrase, "It takes a village to raise a child." For prehistoric humans, that wasn't a comforting saying. It was biological reality. Anthropologists believe one of humanity's greatest strengths was something called cooperative breeding. Unlike most primates, where mothers carry almost all of the responsibility for raising offspring, early human societies spread childcare across many individuals, grandparents, older brothers and sisters, aunts, uncles, close friends, even unrelated adults within the group. Every pair of hands increased a child's chances of reaching adulthood. One of the most fascinating ideas supporting this comes from anthropologist Kristen Hawkes, whose grandmother hypothesis suggests that human menopause may have evolved because older women became more valuable helping grandchildren survive than continuing to have children themselves. Instead of investing energy into another pregnancy, experienced grandmothers could gather food, watch young children, share knowledge, and support exhausted mothers. Research in traditional societies consistently shows that the presence of a grandmother often improves child survival. Experience became its own evolutionary advantage. Nor were fathers absent. Among the Aka hunter-gatherers of Central Africa, researchers observed fathers remaining within arm's reach of their infants for nearly half the day. That level of involvement surprises many people today. For ancient humans, childcare was never viewed as one person's job. It belonged to everyone. Feeding looked very different too. Today, many families stop breastfeeding within the first year. Across most of human history, children commonly nursed for 2, 3, or even 4 years. From an evolutionary perspective, this longer period makes perfect sense. Breast milk did far more than provide calories. It strengthened immunity, it comforted frightened infants, it regulated stress. Frequent nursing also delayed the return of fertility, naturally spacing births several years apart. That spacing mattered. Trying to care for 2 completely dependent infants while constantly moving across landscapes filled with predators would have been nearly impossible. Long breastfeeding helped families avoid exactly that situation. In many communities, breastfeeding wasn't limited to biological mothers. Women often nursed each other's children when needed. This practice, known as wet nursing, strengthened cooperation and ensured that orphaned or temporarily separated infants still had access to nourishment. Milk became a shared resource. Survival became a shared responsibility. Now imagine daily life. You are gathering roots, berries, nuts, or edible plants. You may walk 10 kilometers before sunset. At the same time, your baby cannot regulate body temperature, cannot crawl away from danger, cannot even roll over safely. Leaving the infant behind isn't an option, so ancient humans carried their children almost constantly, against the chest, across the back, wrapped in animal hides or woven slings, close enough to hear every heartbeat. Modern science suggests this constant contact wasn't simply convenient, it was exactly what infant biology expected. Skin-to-skin contact stabilizes breathing, it helps regulate heart rate, it supports body temperature, it lowers stress hormones. Studies also show that babies carried throughout the day generally cry much less than babies left alone for long periods. From an evolutionary perspective, crying signals danger. For hundreds of thousands of years, being separated from a caregiver often meant death. Being held meant safety. Eventually, every child has to begin eating solid food. Without blenders or packaged baby meals, ancient parents relied on surprisingly practical methods. One of the oldest was premastication. Adults chewed food until it became soft before placing it directly into the infant's mouth. It may sound unpleasant today, yet the practice appears across cultures and even among chimpanzees. Besides making food easier to swallow, it may also have transferred beneficial microbes that helped shape the developing immune system. Children also ate nutrient-rich foods whenever available: bone marrow, eggs, soft fruits, fish, cooked meat, mashed roots. Ancient diets were often far more varied than those found after agriculture spread. Interestingly, archaeological studies suggest hunter-gatherer children generally suffered fewer cavities than many early farming populations whose diets relied heavily on grains. The first farmers often had worse teeth than the hunters who came before them. Sleep tells another important story. For almost all of human history, children rarely slept alone. They shared sleeping spaces with parents or other caregivers. This arrangement provided warmth, frequent nighttime breastfeeding, and immediate comfort whenever a baby became distressed. Modern medicine rightly warns about unsafe sleeping environments involving soft mattresses, heavy bedding, smoking, or alcohol. Those risks are real. But anthropologist James McKenna, who has spent decades studying infant sleep, argues that close nighttime contact likely played an important role throughout human evolution. The gentle sounds, breathing, and movements of nearby adults may help infants regulate their own breathing during early development. Whether every detail of that theory proves correct, one broader conclusion remains clear. Human babies evolved expecting closeness. Isolation is historically unusual. Of course, ancient parents still faced heartbreaking realities. Infant mortality was painfully high. Without antibiotics, vaccinations, or modern sanitation, many children never reached their 5th birthday. Parents fought diseases they could neither understand nor cure. Yet they weren't helpless. Across the world, ancient people developed extensive knowledge of medicinal plants. Willow bark reduced pain. Honey protected wounds against infection. Garlic showed antimicrobial properties long before anyone understood bacteria. Chimpanzees even self-medicate with certain plants today, suggesting that some forms of natural medicine may stretch far back into our evolutionary past. Communities also surrounded childbirth with rituals, names, blessings, protective ceremonies, special gatherings. Although these traditions may seem symbolic today, they served important purposes. They united communities. They reminded everyone that the child's survival mattered. They helped families cope with grief when tragedy struck. Archaeologists have discovered carefully prepared infant burials complete with grave goods and decorations. These discoveries tell a simple truth. Ancient parents loved their children deeply. Loss hurt then, just as it hurts now. Perhaps the most surprising lesson is this. Many of humanity's oldest childcare practices align remarkably well with modern research. Not every ancient custom deserves revival. Modern medicine has saved millions of lives. Vaccines, clean water, emergency care, antibiotics. These advances transformed childhood forever. But alongside those scientific breakthroughs, modern societies also lost something. Extended families became smaller, communities spread apart. Parents increasingly raised children in isolation. Babies spent more time in separate rooms, swings, and devices designed to replace human arms. Today's parents often shoulder enormous responsibility with far less social support than our ancestors ever experienced. High rates of parental burnout, postpartum depression, and chronic stress reflect that reality. The ancient solution to raising children was never perfection. It was participation. Responsibility was shared. Exhaustion was shared. Success and failure belonged to the entire group. No single caregiver carried the burden alone. So how did ancient humans keep children alive? They held them close. They breastfed for years. They slept beside them. They softened food with their own mouths. They relied on grandparents, siblings, friends, and neighbors. They shared knowledge across generations. They mourned every child they lost while constantly searching for better ways to protect the next one. Above all, they understood something that modern society often forgets. Children survive best when surrounded by human connection. Technology has dramatically reduced the dangers that once threatened every newborn. For that, humanity should be grateful. But the invisible technology our ancestors mastered, the technology of community, cannot be manufactured in a hospital or purchased in a store. It must be built between people. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson prehistoric families still have to teach. Your ancestors never had pediatricians, incubators, or smartphones filled with parenting advice. What they had was a circle of people who refused to let one another face the hardest job in life alone. And in a world without modern medicine, without electricity, without certainty, that shared commitment carried humanity through hundreds of thousands of years. Ironically, as civilization has grown richer, faster, and more connected by technology, many families have become more isolated than ever before. Your ancestors lived with fewer possessions but more people. Today, many parents have endless conveniences yet shoulder unimaginable pressure alone. Maybe the greatest survival tool humanity ever invented wasn't fire, farming, or even language. Maybe it was simply knowing that when a child cried, someone would always be there to answer.